I'll call I don't want to label these as piles like everybody else does, and not as some sort of rebellious thing, but as just doesn't feel aligned. So we're just gonna go off of whatever title comes through because a title came through the first whatever. First being aspect. It was a mutt who dug their own rut. Was that first one? So let's see what comes through for yours now. Yeah, actually, that's interesting. You're staying. Oh, ooh, this is interesting already. As I was shuffling I call them joysticks because they're based off of this is the original joysticks where I have Lenormands essentially from my own life experience that channeled into those. And so as I was shuffling these for you, this is going to get messy, is what came through, or this is a mess. Something about a mess is here. And I just find it very interesting that some rebellious energy just came through of like even me just shuffling to set this up, like just something needed to come through right away. So there's something about impulsivity. Let's see if that's something that needs to be tapped into or something that needs to be like take some steps back, take a glimpse, Seven of Cups. There's a lot of things to choose from. All right, let me shuffle this one. We shall continue. Wait your turn. Hmm. No, not waiting. Hanging human. But it's upside down. We have the hermit versus the bottom too. That's an interesting thing. Cards are coming through today less about reversals and more about like as above, so below, like reflections of shadow and light sort of concept. I'm not gonna start analyzing this just yet. Also, the lovers. This has come through in every reading I've done today. Self, and then the last pile, and now yours. Like there's just something here. Ooh, but this is the heteronormative lovers card. There's a more stark contrast between yin and yang energies for you. If anything, this actually does feel like it's something relational. Ooh, that only hits for some people. Okay. Um, it's less about that. More about there's more stark contrast between conventional masculine and feminine yin yang energies, the passive and active. Is there isn't a push and pull happening here. It's like there's tension in some way serving, but it doesn't feel the healthiest for whatever this is. And then Three of Swords. There's some sort of hurt below that's affecting a dynamic here. That's interesting. All right. This is this is a messy reading. It's not even letting me get to like my like usual call of spread here because I usually have the light aspects, the shadow aspects, and then just like influences in between or something. But this is just kind of like, are you feeling like mentally fragmented? Like there isn't a cohesive thing here. It's just like boom, 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 but not even in direct succession. And there's also a lot of spaces between here. So I feel like there's just a lot of like void space, but then for when patterns of thought do come through, it's like it feels particularly heavyist with this Lovers card, the whole like broken-hearted, like past broken-hearted pain reflection that's like coming through, but then everything else is just kind of lighter, but still not like the best influence. Hmm. I can't seem to get comfortable. There's restlessness, impulsivity, restlessness. Like definitely like I felt ADHD or something because it's just impulsivity is like really just the word that keeps coming through. All right, so let's focus on the more. I feel like I'm just channeling like what the actual thought pattern is, the actual approach within the mind of like certain segments of like, let's take a more mature approach to this. There's a segregation, segmenting. There's a separation between like mother, child, like mature and childish energies when really it's a matter of those things are an intertwined concept. The child is the core aspect of self and is ultimately the most mature. We just happen to get conditioned into being mature, which ultimately just makes us more pained and harmful and hurtful as human beings because unconscious and then applying consciously hurtful behaviors until we choose to uncondition these things. Anyway, these two cards feel important. Seven Cups came up again. This is a time, the spring season is fitting, a time of great abundance. And you are not excluded from that. Though you keep telling yourself you are, because I keep like getting this thing to reverse this. Like you're like your mind's pouring out the glasses, but that's not the reality. There's a lot of mental exhaustion here because there's just so many like popping up separate things, or at least they feel very separate. There's like invisible dots here that can connect some things that can then unravel as they need to. Page of Wands is on the left over here. This is more of what you need of. Um, a fiery curiosity here, igniting something anew, um, which had me looking at the Lover's card for that, but more towards the sky. I do find it interesting that I'm noticing that it is first order in the Lovers, but I'm being called more towards the shadow side than that. So be curious about something within the darkness of your own mind is what comes through. There's an avoidance of hurt within one's own mind here. And that is presenting within your current dynamics. Yes, now the card flips over. Okay, so bringing that to the light is going to make you feel less fragmented. And now I'm being called to over here. It's the Hermit, but it's not the Hermit part that's being read here. It's the actual like fox as below sort of thing. Not the time. Okay. There's a blissful energy here, childlike energy in one of these fragments of thought pattern. But it presents itself in the not every day, but in the sense of like in the physical realm of your life experience, it shows up in a dark, cozy way, is what comes through. And with the flowers I'm being called to, there's a romantic aspect. Tulips is another theme coming through, which tulips are not resilient flowers. I call them two lips. in that it's very like flaky energy, very beautiful on the surface but falls apart easily, sort of thing. Not reliable energy. And because the fox is like in reverse, I get the sense of like the shadow aspects of the fox. Like there's oh, and there's two doves upside down here too. Chaotic connection here of yeah. There's some sort of, and I'm drawn to lover. Yeah, there's some sort of ooh. This is lovers in the sense of like a lover, which by my definition is separate from like a committed partner. So just someone you have a romantic sexual relationship with that is not necessarily committed but could be working towards commitment. But in this sense, I get the sense that one person, you have the mindset that you are within a commitment of some kind, although loosely, like you're more blissful, and there's a naivety about this, a chosen naivety about this. But this lover engagement is not serving. It's just it's you stick with ooh, these thoughts are fragmented because it is painful to acknowledge that this past hurt stuff. And so by sticking with this shadow aspect, whatever this lover's arrangement is within your own headspace, it's how you're perceiving it that's making this, I'll call it, is problematic, not serving, not highest aligned for you. It's it's a distraction from the hurt that you actually feel. And you need to be curious about that. And this is very similar coloring to the card in this deck, the star card, rejuvenation. Like you can rejuvenate yourself through the mind by, and now the Queen of Swords is calling herself to attention here towards the center, and the Eight of Wands. Eight of Wands is with speed, and that's teamed up with this Queen of Swords in reverse, but it's more about the card's image placement than the reversal meaning here, where the sword is like down towards this. I don't want to use the word delusional. That's like a little too heavy, but this daydreaming, unserving, daydreamy bliss illusion you're feeding yourself regarding whatever this lover dynamic is. Like swords are for truth, logic, the mind, but in this case, just truth, like right to the point, right to the truth. And very quickly, once you grasp this concept, once you grasp, really integrate this insight, when you're willing, here's the thing, when you are willing to sit with the restlessness and let the dots come together here, then very quickly you will move through this shadow dynamic thing going on. And then you can, approaching with that curiosity, address that hurt, and then have the right kind of love in your life. And by that, I mean something that is actually love in your life, not the illusion of love in your life. The only real love is love without condition. And not in the sense of, I'm going to accept all these shadow aspects and this is a detached thing, when really there is healthy detachment. But this is straight up fragmenting. That's not healthy. This is an unhealthy detachment, and in its core, because reflecting outside what is internal, is a detachment from yourself, your own truth, which you need to just cut down quickly into. You're just procrastinating like the inevitable, that you need to acknowledge this pain. but then it means that you can come together within yourself and then come together with another reflecting those balanced aspects within it. The star card. What did I fucking tell you? Yeah. Once you have those, once you just slice on through with that sword of truth quickly, effectively, efficiently, there, rejuvenation comes in, and notice how she's carrying the water and just pouring in and nurturing the soil. And I just, and the thing is, I find it interesting that that cup that's pouring the water from the star card is facing this. And I get the sense of like, once you cut through that, you then have the right perspective, because that's ultimately what the hanged man, the hanged human in this card deck, because thankfully non-binary. It's then just nourishing the plants. And I'm really called to attention here of like the two mourning doves, it looks like, on this. Which mourning doves, from my experience, from my own feeder, they're the main bird babes that I tend to the day to day. Star card back in the deck. That's curious. Rejuvenation repeating. They doves are often like labeled as these peaceful birds. You often see white doves, but they're actually quite chaotic. They're still loving, but they're quite chaotic. And so it's okay to let things fall apart and come back together. Or not even just it's okay. That is the nature of doing, is what comes through. And I am also, again, called towards, because there are also moon phases on this card. The doves are placed between last quarter towards the new moon. So at some point, you're going to be wrapping things up within in this process. And it's right as you're coming to a close with that, creating your own closure, perhaps with this lover dynamic. It doesn't feel as literal as that. I feel like it's more so after that. There's going to be something that just pulls together and makes sense. And overall, once you allow that truth to come in and you make that judgment call with that lover, and or whatever that is and represents for you, there's just so much opportunity for rejuvenation. There's so many cups that are going to be filled that you can't even like, that it feels, I think you're afraid of good things happening to you. No, I think you're afraid of good things happening to you because that feels unfamiliar, because you've been hurt so many times, which is why it's such an old pattern to keep these thought patterns separate, because to not be able to put together the truth, because sitting in that restlessness keeps you busy from actually acknowledging that. I think you're afraid of success. You're afraid of things going good, because then things will get taken away from you. They'll go bad. I know that feeling. I know that thought pattern. And things do actually sustainably get better if you choose to allow them to. Because the insanity method of just locking shit up from yourself, you're blocking some fantastic shit from coming in. you can actually have this fun time where it's like head rushingly good without it being like an unhealthy kind of head rushing good that then drops. It's but right now, like doing this thing, it's just a whole other. It's just not real, and that's coming from someone who knows that we create our own reality, and it doesn't. And it's best to not have it fit the reality that already presents, that we are conditioned to believe presents. Create a reality that lets you access this because it's here for you. It's all here for you. Swords, temperance, patience. Have patience with yourself and have patience with others. Not so much this one, but those who reflect your darkness. Hmm. Those who reflect your darkness will be in the light. Keep looking towards that because the two can exist within the same space, and the two do exist within the same space when aligned. All right. Anything else for this? Pair of Pentacles. Slow progression. Slow and steady. Making quick judgment calls will then bring slow and steady progress. It won't fit the pattern you're used to with the impulsivity, the quickness, separation of things, but it'll come together. You gotta be the light within your own mind. All right. That'll be it for your reading. Thank you for showing up. And keep looking towards the doves. That's what I'm called to say. They're looking out for you. All right. Go bravely.